Hey guys, Glacial here, and Super Mario is quite possibly the most famous video game franchise of all time, coming in second in the highest grossing video game franchises of all time, just being behind Pokemon. Mario's original debut was from Donkey Kong in arcades in 1981. As he was then known as Jumpman, his mission was to save his girlfriend from the bad guy, which would become a popular trend in later Mario games. Donkey Kong proved to be extremely successful and led to Jumpman getting his own spin-off games. He was renamed to Mario and given a brother named Luigi. They then starred in their own game, Mario Bros, and while it wasn't quite as successful as Donkey Kong, it was still popular enough to lead to the first topic of today's video. Super Mario Bros. Was a launch title for the NES, and it's one of, if not the most revolutionary game of all time, single-handedly saving the industry after the crash in 1983. Nowadays, it's the most basic platformer you can possibly get. You run from left to right, defeat enemies, and collect power-ups. But at the time, this formula was really something special. And that doesn't mean the game is bad, not at all. The game still remains fun and exciting to this day, and it's sold phenomenally, still being on the top selling games of all time list. The story of Super Mario Bros. Is a simple one. The Mushroom Kingdom is under attack by an evil sorcerer named Bowser. Using his armies of Koopas and Goombas, he has kidnapped the Princess Toadstool, and you've got to save her. I feel very nostalgic for this game, even though I was born 20 years after its initial release. I played it a lot and have some fond memories of it. The gameplay is simple yet fun. You can run and jump and that's about it. However, Mario has a variety of basic power-ups to spice up the gameplay a bit. The Super Mushroom makes Mario bigger and lets him take an extra hit point. The Starman grants you invincibility for a brief time, and the Fire Flower lets you shoot fire by pressing B. There are many enemies Mario must face to get to the end. Goombas are the most basic enemy there is. They walk left and that's it. Koopas and Buzzy Beetles don't die when jumped on, but instead go into their shells and can be kicked to other things. Piranha Plants move in and out of pipes to try and get you. Lakitus fly on clouds and throw Spinies at you. Spinies are impossible to jump on due to their spiked backs. But then, there's the Hammer Bros, the most annoying enemy in this whole game. They just jump around sporadically and throw hard to dodge hammers at you, and certain stages are just covered in them. Super Mario Bros. Has 5 main level types you'll find while playing. 8 different worlds with 4 stages each. There are ground stages, these are the most basic and common level types. There's underground, as a very similar style but typically with more enemies and a ceiling. Sky levels usually have more platforming and no floor. Water levels have you swimming everywhere rather than running and jumping. And the castles are like a mixture of all of the above. While the game may have not aged too well, it still holds up as a fun experience to this day. And it's one of the easiest games to find and play. An original NES copy is stupid cheap. I got mine for about £5, but they often come cheaper. And it's available on almost every Nintendo console ever, excluding maybe a few. But a few years after this, Nintendo tried a game completely different. Super Mario Bros. 2 is a very interesting game with an even more interesting backstory. It's a commonly known fact that this game is a reskin of another game called Doki Doki Panic. This isn't entirely the case. After the real Mario 2 failed its localization tests, they had to make a new game, one more easy yet different to more suit Western audiences. They chose Doki Doki Panic as the base game, replaced the characters, and the rest is history. But what some don't know is that Doki Doki Panic was originally intended to be a vertically scrolling Mario game for the Fuji Television Network in Japan, asking Nintendo to add their characters to this new game engine, and Doki Doki Panic was born. The story of the game is much different this time around. While in his dreams, Mario stumbles across a door which takes him to a place named Subcon. While there, the inhabitants tell him of an evildoer named Wart threatening to take over their world. Then he wakes up. The next day, Mario, Luigi, Peach and Toad all go into a cave for some reason, and find a door that leads them to Subcon? A bit confusing, but sure. The main difference in the gameplay that you'd realise right off the bat is that there are now 4 different playable characters, all with different traits. Mario is well balanced with a decent jump, speed and strength. Luigi has poor traction, decent strength but an amazing jump. Peach is slow, has bad strength but has the best jump and is able to hover. Toad is fast, strong but has an awful jump. The gameplay is way different than the last game. I guess Nintendo just had a thing for making the sequels way different, I guess. Instead of jumping on enemies, you can stand on them, pick them up and throw them, which I admit is way more fun than jumping on them. You can also find grass in the levels which you can pull out of the ground to get an item, be it a vegetable to throw at enemies, a POW block or a Koopa Troopa shell. It's also the first Mario game to have a health bar, which will become a common thing in many future games. You can increase your health by grabbing mushrooms found in these hidden bonus rooms. Coins can also be found here, used to play the slot machine at the end of each stage. Unlike the first Mario game, if you get a game over, you can continue without having to use a cheat. The game is a little shorter than the last, with only 7 worlds and 3 levels each. But it's made up for by the levels being much longer, and most of them ending in a boss fight. There are quite a lot of bosses, being Birdo, Triclide, Mauser, and Clawgrip. And it all ends in a battle against the final boss, Wart, who shoots bubbles at you and you kill him by feeding him vegetables. Sure. This game can be pretty challenging at times, with tricky platforming and tough enemies, but worst of all is the final stage, 7-2. God damn, this thing might as well be a Zelda dungeon, it's that complex. There's so many rooms and enemies and rooms and puzzles and bosses and... So you defeat Wart and it's revealed that it was all just a dream. Yeah, it's pretty cliche nowadays, but then it was something new, not seen in a game before. Okay, before we move on, I want to talk about the presentation. This game looks amazing, for an NES game anyway. It's much more colourful, detailed, animated, it's really quite impressive. And the music is really, really good. I'd even say it's better than the music of the first game. Very iconic and catchy. This is easily my favourite game we've looked at so far. Really good and very nostalgic. But this might change with the next game we look at. Super Mario Bros. 3 is amazing. It shouldn't need to be said. It's possibly the best 2D Mario game ever made. Many say it's the best game ever made, period. This is the first NES cartridge I ever got. I only just started to collect for the NES very recently. So I got this, Mega Man 2 and the Mario Duck Hunt combo cartridge. And this just so happened to be the one to arrive first. Mario 3 is one of the best-selling NES games ever, and it has such high praise and such a big following, it's crazy. But how did it achieve such a ranking? Well, let's find out. To start off, the story is much more active than in either of the previous games. After Princess Peach returns to the Mushroom Kingdom, Bowser's children, the 7 Koopalings, are causing havoc and have turned all the kings into animals and stole their wands, and you've got to get them back. Then they overthrow Bowser and save Peach, the end. So yeah, this game seems a lot more intriguing than the other two. But what about the gameplay? Is it changed up in any way? Well, yeah. Mario 3 changes the gameplay more than ever, and it's all for the best. All the new power-ups and moves are excellent changes to the game. Unlike Mario 2, this game goes back to how Mario 1 played. Run from right to left, stomp on enemies, and reach the goal. But it still feels completely different. There's now a world map, with many levels, mini-games, and way more scattered across them. The only issue I have with the world maps is that it's impossible to revisit old worlds and levels after clearing them, but it's not the biggest deal ever. The world themes are all fresh and unique, and that was until certain later games recycled them over and over and over again. The worlds we have here are Grassland, Desert Hill, Oceanside, Big Island, The Sky, Iceland, Pipe Maze and Castle of Koopa, which were then all changed to generic land-based names in a later version. All the power-ups from the first game have returned, alongside many new ones. The Raccoon Leaf allows Mario to fly and bat enemies with his tail. The Frog Suit gives you faster swimming speeds but is terrible on land. The Tanuki Suit gives you the same powers as the Raccoon Leaf but with the extra ability to turn into an invulnerable statue. And the Hammer Suit. Oh boy, the Hammer Suit. It puts you in a funky Hammer Bros outfit and gives you the same powers as them. I really like this one. There's loads of new enemies here as well, many of which will become staples of the series, like the Boo, Thwomp, Chain Chomp and Spike, just to name a few. Boss fights are pretty varied here, while I personally think the fights in Mario 2 are a bit more fun. The Koopalings offer a fun, sometimes pretty hard challenge, but they're mostly pushovers. Now, while I personally love the way this game controls, I've seen many people say that they're too floaty and loose, and I'd have to agree with them on that one. At some points, if things like picking up speed or making precise jumps can be a real challenge. One more amazing thing about this game is the graphics. Oh my, these graphics. This game looks phenomenal for an NES game, even better than Mario 2. I might even go as far to say it's the best looking NES game ever. It's that good. And the music is really good. I'm not sure if I prefer it over Mario 2, but either way, it's still very good. Okay, so overall, which one of these games is the best? Come on now, this should be obvious. It's Super Mario Bros. 3. When I first started this video, I thought Mario 2 would be my favourite, but after replaying them all again, Mario 3 easily comes out on top. But all of these games stand out in their own right. They all have their redeeming traits that still make them fun to play to this day. Anyway, I've been Glacial, and thank you all so much for watching. Bye bye.